was born to kill it. I was meant to win. I am down and willing, so I will find a way. It took a minute, now it didn't happen right away. When it get hot in the kitchen, you decide to stay. That's how it winners made. Stick a fork in the hater on my dinner plate. I walk into the fire like it's just a...
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast. My name's Scott, the Clydesdale, and I'm here with none other than Chelsea Nicholas. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got Kenneth in the chat already. He's always early. He's like 20 minutes early. He's that guy at work that comes to every meeting and is sitting in the room waiting for you as everybody walks in. So he was here way before us.
Love that.
Gotta love those loyal fans and supporters like Kenneth, because he's the best. So we have Chelsea on because I want to catch up with her. We've become friends over the last couple of years. Got to see her compete in all different facets. Last year she did team, individual, masters, the whole 9 yards. She made it to the games. She's winning the games, does a box jump and ruptures her Achilles. And we've had her on to talk about that Achilles injury post games. What we want to see is where she's at now. So, Chelsea, last time we talked to you, you had I think you were still in the boot, maybe just got it off.
Yeah, I think so. I remember being in a boot.
You remember being in a boot?
Yeah, when we were talking, yeah.
Yeah, because I told you what I saw with Julie Fouché and the little apparatus for the shoe.
Right.
Yeah, to help level out the hips. Okay, so from that point on, what in the world? I am so disorganized today. So from that point on, what has rehab looked like?
Okay, so we're at almost exactly 8 months post-injury, post-op. And I have to say, like, it's kind of flown by, and I also feel like I've been dealing with this forever at this point. But every week, I'll say over the last 8 months, every week has been a little bit different and a little bit better, kind of just moving in the right direction, slowly but steadily. I was in the boot for 3 months. So there were the 3 months where I couldn't drive because it was my right foot. And there was not a whole lot you could be doing in those 3 months. It was just letting it heal, letting it rest, because you couldn't stretch the Achilles yet. And then after that, transitioning out of the boot, because you haven't moved it in so long, you're really limited with mobility. So kind of that first hurdle was really fighting to get range of motion back. And my repair was on the tighter side, which was intentional because my surgeon knew that I wanted to do like athletic things later, and he needed tighter to build strength. So I really had to fight for that range of motion. It's still not the range of motion I had pre-injury, and that's one thing I've been kind of struggling with a little bit.
So can I ask you this? Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you talk to your surgeon, and you say he knows you want to do something athletically.
Yeah.
Do you tell him that you're a CrossFitter, or do you just skip over that and just say you do high level athletics?
Yeah. So figuring out when and where to get surgery was kind of like the first stressful thing I dealt with. One of the first stressful things, because it's where can I be seen quickest? Where's somewhere that I trust? And I have Kaiser for health insurance. So initially I just went to urgent care as soon as I got home, and the on-call ortho was going to have me in the next day to do surgery. And so I looked him up, and it looked like good enough. I guess with Kaiser, I didn't think I had many options. And he ended up calling me the next morning, and he couldn't get the OR booked, and he was about to be out of town. So he put in a referral for a friend that he trusted. and I guess like at urgent care, they knew that like I was competing in a sport at a high level. Let's see, at that point, so he put in the referral for me, and his buddy ended up being Pro-Lions. And so now I'm sitting there with a ruptured Achilles, just waiting for a referral to go through and to get a phone call. And I mean, I don't really know when that phone call is going to come through and what the next step's going to be and what the timeline looks like. And on the side, I'm talking to a friend who knows a PA nearby who works for Pro-Lions that she trusts really well. And she's a CrossFit friend. So she got me connected with him, and I started talking to him, and he got me an appointment for like that next Monday to see him. And the surgeon he worked with, he gave me her name, and I looked her up, and she was a college track athlete. So that felt like something relatable to me. And that all felt good. So I went and saw him, and we ended up booking surgery for that Thursday. And after I got out of that appointment, the other Pro-Lions surgeon called me, and I thought about like going and kind of feeling out both, but I ended up just sticking with the track athlete surgeon. They just felt more proactive to me, and I liked the Pro-Lions route, and I think that was a good choice for me. So that was a really long answer, but it was, you don't get hurt very often, and there's a lot of things you don't think about. And that was kind of a stressful time, making all those decisions when you're injured.
Well, the reason I ask, and I am at no means at your level, but every time I go to the doctor and I say that I do CrossFit, they look at me like sideways. Like, you do that crazy stuff. And, you know, I've had chiropractors say, oh, that's what keeps me in business. And you know, all that kind of stuff. And so I just was curious if if you even tell them what it is you do, or do you kind of skate around it to make sure that you're getting the best care you need?
Yeah, you kind of feel it out. Like, you'll mention it, and you can kind of see their reaction. I mean, at this point, I've seen like a number of like urgent care or orthos or surgeons or PTs or whatever. And so you always like start with the general, like, oh, I was doing CrossFit or I do CrossFit. And you can tell based on their initial reaction, kind of if they know what it is for one, or if they have any like feelings about it for two. And you can kind of go from there. So I'd say more often than not, people have heard of it, but they don't have a great idea of what exactly it is. And so at that point, I'll like go into a little more detail. Like, it's a little bit of everything. You're sprinting, you're jumping, you're lifting heavy barbells, you're doing like, it's a lot of stuff. And I think from that, at least for an injury like this, it gave them an idea of what I was trying to do later. But my surgeon specifically, I think, had a pretty good idea and could understand that I was competing at the highest level and kind of where I was on the spectrum of like an active person.
And she is a track athlete. I'm assuming she's still fit and all that kind of stuff, and would want something similar if she were hurt.
Right. Yeah. And she told me at, I think, my like 3-month post-op, something like that, she told me that I had the same repair as Aaron Rodgers. So pretty innovative. Even my PT looking at the scar said it looked like a pretty scar, like not as invasive and aggressive as a lot of the ones that she sees. So I know she did a really good job.
So you bring up Aaron Rodgers, and so we're gonna dive down that path too. I remember talking to you online. You were in a spot where you were almost comparing yourself to Aaron's recovery, and I was saying to you, like, yeah, but that's all he does all day is rehab.
Yeah,
like, you work a full-time job, you know, and he has, you know, let's be honest, CrossFit doesn't pay what the NFL pays. So he has unlimited funds at his disposal to hire people to help him through the rehab. Did you ever compare I know you compared yourself to some degree. How long did it take you to get past that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you get injured at the similar times to kind of see where they're at and know where you're at and compare. But everything I saw was like a little clip. And he could look like he was doing really well, but I also know like when I'm in a PT session and warmed up properly and like everything's perfect, I probably look pretty normal too. But just like getting up after sitting down for a long time and everything's cold and tight and you're kind of limping around and it's like, man, how is he doing that? So I don't know. I had tried to look at it more as motivation. And kind of an interesting thing is this year in the NFL, there were like, I want to say more than 20 Achilles ruptures. So I'll be really curious to see who all's back next season and who's not. But yeah, I have a lot of data points there.
Didn't the one guy in the Super Bowl pop his just running on the field?
Yes, I saw the video. Like he was just excited about to like run out there, and there it went. And I guess come to find out, like he had some like calf or something going on, injury related down there. So he probably had some warning signs that something wasn't healthy. But yeah, it was wild.
So speaking of that, there he is. He's getting a chance to play in the Super Bowl. What every football player's dream is. You're at the CrossFit Games. Were you nursing anything going in that you can look back now in retrospect and say, I pushed through this because this is my one shot? Or was it just, it was going to happen?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I would say any athlete who's competing at that point in this season, they probably have something that they're dealing with on some level. And I would say over the last couple of years, I'd had like some knee tendonitis on my other leg, just little things. Nothing was bothering me at the time. But I think maybe I had started compensating and using my right leg a little bit more, to kind of ease up on the left side. And again, like at the time I felt awesome. Nothing was bugging me in my legs or anything like that. But I think I had just done that subconsciously. And so with my right leg taking a little bit more of the burden, I think it gave out. And I have to wonder if doing that crazy sled push event about 2 hours just prior had anything to do with it as well. Like there's a lot of things to wonder about, but I think those are a couple of things that could have maybe contributed. Over the last couple of years, intermittently, I might have had a little bit of Achilles pain, but nothing crazy. And I can't say I did anything about it. I just avoided the things that hurt it. But it wasn't anything that held me back, and it wasn't anything that felt serious. So I guess I'll just say if you do have Achilles pain, make sure you're warming it up well and stretching and maybe doing like a calf strengthening progression or something like that.
It's funny you say that because when I first started CrossFit, I was 450 pounds. So it was not what I do today. But I hurt my calf a lot early on. And my coach would have me do sled pushes because it was less explosive.
Oh, yeah.
To stretch it out, to like try to get it to mend.
In recovery, I've done a lot of that, and it's been great because it's a good way to, like you said, lower impact. You get a nice calf stretch, and it's like a calf raise, but without your full body weight. So it's been really good for me. But the difference between that and what I did at the games was that was like a really heavy sled push at the end of a workout. And it wasn't so much like the calf, but like the whole leg was just completely like blown up. And then I hopped in an ice bath. And then an hour later, I'm warming up for this other event. And so I may be like the perfect storm. I don't know.
So it leads me to this next question then is you're an aerospace engineer, like no slouch when it comes to the intellectual side of all of this stuff. How much Monday morning quarterback did you do? And was there a point you had to tell yourself, you got to stop this and just move forward?
You mean like post injury?
Yeah.
Um,
Looking back at what may have caused it, what?
you know, I mean, it's hard not to like do that research because I'm reading all these articles about like Achilles injuries, and of course some of them are like what could have contributed, but I mean that was more just like out of curiosity because I know people might ask me. And you're right, like you have no control over what already happened. All you can control is like how you handle it moving forward. So I won't say I was ever like consumed by that or feeling angry or like blaming the programming or telling myself I was stupid to rebound those 24-inch box jumps. It was just kind of like, okay, well, that's somewhat of an answer. I guess it's not too surprising. Now let's just see what we can do to get through it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I overanalyze every workout to begin with. Like I said, that's just the person I am. And if I would get hurt, like when I hurt my back, it was like, was it the deadlift? Was it this? Was it that? Like, and then I overanalyze everything. So
yeah, I do think it makes you smarter. Because I mean, people can tell you a million times, like, oh, do your warm-ups, oh, do your strengthening, like do your accessories, all this stuff, but it doesn't really hit home until like you have a serious reason to. And for me, like as I've gotten more experienced and older, kind of those things that I've like made a priority and incorporated is all because of lessons I've learned probably the hard way. Like you learn how to deal with a cranky shoulder because you have a cranky shoulder and you know like what you need to do to avoid that. And I think the same goes for something like this. And now in recovery, I mean, we'll probably get more into this and why I am not competing this season, but like wanting to rebuild properly so I don't have future problems in my Achilles or anywhere else. So I think, yeah, learning things the hard way. Yeah.
My last question on this is, you were one of the busiest athletes during that 23 season because you did 3 quarterfinals, you did 2 semifinals.
Yeah.
Do you think any of that was wear and tear on the body?
I mean, I felt good. I mean, I don't think anything I did this season was like too much and that's why I got hurt. I truly don't think that. If there was an overuse thing, it would have been more for an injury like this, it would have been more like over the years I've done so many like super intense high impact sports like gymnastics and track, like triple jumping and pole vaulting and stuff like that, just like years and years compounded on each other. So there's that. The other thing is, I mean, yeah, again, reading all these articles, like what could have caused it. A lot of times these days, workouts are written in a way where there's no reason to rebound a standard box jump. Like there'll be a box jump over, or there'll be a burpee box jump, or something where it doesn't make sense to do a full standard box jump where you're rebounding to a full standing position on the box. It doesn't come up a whole lot these days. So I haven't done as many of them. And this workout had, I think, 20 or 30 at a time at 2 different spots in the sprint type workout. So it made you want to rebound them. And I hadn't done a whole lot of that leading up to it. So maybe I wasn't conditioned in that way. Because I don't know that your calves are really intended to do that sort of like repetitive explosive stuff back to back like that.
Yeah, it's crazy because, I was in Minnesota when Julie did it on the box jump rebounding. And then there I am at the games watching you and boom. Like it was so eerily similar. And the crazy thing is like, that is the fittest I'd ever seen Julie Fouché.
Yeah.
Like, and really thought she was going to have her best ever games performance. It's the fittest you've probably ever been.
Absolutely.
You were winning the games at that moment. Like, and then just one tendon in the whole body gave out.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. And the only reason I knew what it was is because of athletes like Julie Fouché. And there have been a handful of others who have done the exact same thing on the exact same movement. So when I felt that, like, feeling like you get whacked and then you look over, I thought someone hit me. I looked over, there's no one there. And it's like, I know exactly what just happened. It's crazy.
So what I want to do now is, you did such a good job kind of documenting month by month, like through your recovery on your Instagram. So I'm going to pull that up and just kind of show the progress you've made, because it's significant. But before we go to that, one last Aaron Rodgers question.
Yeah.
You know, he was touting that he was going to be able to play by the end of the season, which is unheard of in football. Like, I've been an NFL fan for 40 years. Nobody has ever come back in the same season to play after a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
He didn't end up doing it. He was activated by his team, but he never took the field. How realistic do you think that was?
Because he made those claims pretty early on, yeah?
Yeah.
Um,
And the closer it got, he actually did kind of go through the steps of being cleared medically.
Right. I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine that he actually would have been able to. I mean, it would have been such high risk. And I mean, I have to believe it was more just, I don't know, wanting to give the fans something to, like, hold on to. I don't know. I mean, he kind of stated he was trying to redefine the, like, acceptable recovery time, like prove that it can be done. But when you make those claims early on and it's something that hasn't been done, it's a huge unknown for you too. And, like, yeah, that can be your intention. But I think even coming back next season would be incredible. So just kind of like shooting for the stars, and then you're still going to end up accomplishing something pretty amazing. Yeah.
To have a full recovery, because they say, like, it takes almost 2 full years to be back to normal.
Yeah, I was told that you're still pretty high risk up until, like, that 1.5 years, almost 2-year mark. And then after that point, if you were to re-injure it, chances are it wouldn't tear in the same spot. It would be a different spot kind of thing. Like, it's healed.
It's a whole new injury at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of the timeline I was given.
Yeah,
like 9 to 12 months, you should be getting back into those higher intense sports, is what the general protocols say. But
because he injured his in September, and he was back active on his roster in December.
Yeah, that would be like me just getting out of the boot. Like, can't imagine playing a professional football game
with 300-pound bodies being
right,
like, jumping at you, and
yeah,
insane.
Yeah.
But enough about Aaron. We'll go to your Instagram here. So I'm going to start at 3 months out.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is you, I think, 3 months post-op.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of what I was doing was super exciting, but I did want to leave kind of timestamps of where I was at different spots, because after I ruptured mine, like, you meet all kinds of people who injured theirs. And so it kind of documented, like, what you might be able to expect, what the challenges are at different points in recovery. So here, I was excited that I could get below parallel in my lifters because of that limited ankle mobility I was still fighting for. I think this was the first day that I was, like, in the overhead position in a squat with a barbell instead of a PVC.
I did notice that the snatch itself is muscle. Like you use no legs.
No running or jumping at this point. I hadn't done any sort of like hop even. Just trying to do, I guess we would call this active range of motion type stuff. And
I
trying
noticed you're in your lifters for a lot of this.
Yeah, that it raises your heel a little bit, so you don't need quite as much ankle mobility to hit those positions.
So when you're doing these movements, are you in pain at all to get to those positions?
Yeah, there's a lot of pain kind of associated with anything you're doing that you haven't done in a while. Back at 3 months post-op, it was kind of like stretching pains, but up until just recently, like if I were to do a calf stretch, I wouldn't feel it in my calf. The limiter would be like down in my foot and ankle, and just like from not being able to use or move your foot for so long. So yeah, I'm moving carefully and things are not painless.
Well, you are quite the testament to the health, or the sickness, health, wellness continuum, because your hip mobility and all of that really allowed you to stay in good form, even though your foot is compromised.
Yeah, I mean, leading up to this, I was nowhere near being able to get in these positions. And luckily, it's the front foot of my split jerk. So that's a huge win, and I'm excited about that. If not, I might have switched what foot went forward. But yeah, I've always been very lucky to have a good range of motion for the most part, especially in like my hips, knees, ankles. And I think a lot of that's just from gymnastics, because we were always stretching as I develop my muscles. My shoulders do get a little tight, but ankles and hips I've always been decent with.
Whoops, wrong way. But power, always got to love the Power Rangers.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so here's 4 months post-op. You got some weight on the bar.
Yes, and so at this point, 4 months, I'm not doing any footwork. So it's either like muscle clean plus a front squat, or just a standard squat, but there's no jumping yet. And I noticed when I started squatting again that I had quite a bit of knee pain on that right leg. And I think it was partly because, well, first, I hadn't been using it like that for a while. Second, when you elevate the heel, a lot of that stress moves to your knee. So I backed off pretty quickly and started just focusing on lightweight and tempo and high reps, to kind of reacclimate other parts of my body.
So what I noticed is how much smoother and faster you're able to move through the squat from 3 to 4.
Yeah, that's a 1 month difference. So like I said, every week things kept moving in the right direction.
What kind of support are you getting around this time? Are you part of your gym community?
Oh yeah. I do the classes still, which is something I did before I got hurt as well. And anyone who's coaching is helping me come up with scaling options if I don't have something in mind on my own. And then the gym owner, Cody, does some programming, and then Antone, who's another coach at the gym, he does some of kind of the extra compete programming, and he's been helping me programming some specific stuff for me to help ease me back into everything I am used to doing.
Love Antone. Got to meet him at West Semis. Got to interview him. He's a good dude.
He is, yeah.
Okay, so that's 4 months post-op.
Yeah,
Then
let's see.
we go to, I think it's 2 back. Nope, maybe 1 back.
Oh, that's
Nope.
pre-injury,
Yeah.
which confused people. Oh, this one. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
here's
5 months. This was, I think, the first day I jogged on the assault runner. I had done some light jogging at PT. And at this point, she had instructed like light jogging is tolerated, but no changing directions real fast or sprinting. And then we started doing like small box jumps like you see here, just a few inches really, and just making sure you absorb the landing and kind of, when you hop off, absorb it into that full squat. And then actually like coming up out of the squat, you'll see I go onto my toes and a little calf raise there. And it's funny, the first time I tried that, I didn't even have the strength to do that. And I tried to stand up and I didn't go anywhere. And here I'm doing single leg calf raises. The general rule was no jumping or anything explosive until you can do 10 single leg full range of motion calf raises. And I was really slow to rebuild that strength. And so my PT eventually was like, well, let's try some light or some really low little jumps like this. And so we started doing that, and it really helped things along.
So we talked about the lifters. You're now out of lifters on this.
Uh-huh.
How important was shoe choice during all of this? And did different shoes did you need different shoes for different things?
Yeah, more important than ever. Like before injury, I was the athlete who did everything in my Metcons, and I wasn't even picky about which brand or anything. Like they were all fine. I would like max my Olympic lifts in them. I would squat in them. I would do everything in the same pair of shoes, which was awesome. And now if I'm going to be doing any sort of running, I like my Hokas or Hokas, I don't know how you say it, but something with more padding and a little bit of shape to them to help, I guess, absorb. If I try and run in Metcons, it can be a little painful, a little less supported, and a little more impact, and it hurts more. And again, with lifting, I never needed that heel raise. And so if I'm doing any heavy lifting, I'll throw on my Olympic lifting shoes, just for a little more structure and a little more heel lift. But for the normal CrossFit workouts, I'm back to just Metcons. I can do air squats and light barbell stuff in my normal shoes, but if it's a lot of running, I want more padding, and if it's a lot of heavy lifting, I want lifters.
Is it the goal to get back to just wearing Metcons for everything?
I'd like to. And I could probably force it with everything except for the running right now. But it's nice to have that little extra stability too when I'm moving some heavier weight.
Okay, so now we go to
I think the next one is just when I did my first box jump. Oh, so I didn't do a 6-month one, but 6.5 months. That was the first day I tried a box jump, and you can see that stack of plates in the background. I literally started with the 45, and then I added a plate at a time till it was about the height of a box, and then I tried a box jump.
All right.
That was really exciting.
Box jumps are, even just for average Joe CrossFitter, can be a mental block.
Mm-hmm.
This is the apparatus you rupture your Achilles on. How much mentally was this day? Was it more mental or physical?
I would say mental. So I kind of have a history, at least when I was younger, of having mental blocks in sports. Now in CrossFit, it has always been something I've been able to overcome. It hasn't been that way for all of my past sports. But I would say in CrossFit, like lifting really heavy Olympic lifts sometimes will get to my head and I'll have that fear factor and have to overcome it. But I mean, I've been able to over the years. And And I've never really had that fear with the box jump before, I think because it was just so similar to things I'd done in the past. But I know a lot of people do. And so looking at this box now after being hurt, I, for the first time, felt a little bit of that like fear or anxiety about like trying a rep and am I ready for this? Can I do it? What's the worst thing that could happen? Like, am I gonna make it jump that high? Am I gonna hit my shin on the box? Am I gonna tear an Achilles? But I think after I did one, I'm like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And I wouldn't say that I'm scared of them. I would say that I look forward to them. Like box jump overs are programmed today, and I'm excited for the workout. I definitely still move slower on them. I'm still rebuilding that trust and confidence, but I don't think there's going to be a fear factor. But I will say I do not plan to rebound box jumps again in the future. Just not worth the risk.
So I noticed in this clip, you're stepping down with the left foot every time.
Yeah. So
is that a necessity thing?
Kind of. Yeah. At this point, the things that are still high risk for me are stepping down from something like this, and because you have to absorb in your toe. And you can't really control that so much. So like if I were to jump off of the box or stepping off the box, I just need to be more cautious. And now sometimes I'll carefully step down and try and alternate legs a month and a half later. But I wouldn't like hop off yet. Yeah, there's only a couple things that I am kind of leery about. That's one that I've been told is don't do this yet. And then of course, sprinting, I am not up to sprinting yet. Running a little bit faster, but not anything like a sprint.
Okay. So then we go to this.
Yeah, so that was about 7 months. This is the first time I built up to a heavy squat, and it felt good. But a lot of times when I'll max my back squat, I'll get to the point where I'm feeling reps and like hopping out from under the bar just to like really make sure I found my max. And I didn't want to put myself in a position where I had to hop out from under it because that didn't feel, it probably would be fine, but I just didn't feel safe doing it. So, I stopped pretty conservatively, and I added a pause just to keep it controlled and less dynamic. And now we're on my first squat cycle to try and rebuild, and I'm really excited to test it again in, I don't know how many weeks the cycle is, but when we get to the other side of it, I don't think I'll need a pause, and I'll have a lot more heavy squats under my belt by that point.
Well, that's not a light squat.
I mean, it's probably equal to like a lot of competitive athletes 1RM, which is you kind of have to compare to yourself though. Like it's probably as heavy as I need to squat to accomplish what I want to accomplish competitively, but it's only 75% of what I could do before. So like, I want to keep getting stronger. Cause I mean, the more you can squat, the easier other things are going to be. Like it always helps to have stronger legs. So.
Yeah. When I was looking at that and I read the caption about like having to not wanting to dive out from under it, but you say so perpendicular, like, your chest is up so much, like it would pretty much just roll off your back, right?
Yeah, you're right. I do stay pretty vertical, and it makes failing reps a lot easier. And maybe that's why I do it in the past. I just, I know that when I do it, it's kind of like it happens really fast, and I don't know. It just seemed like a high risk thing, but no, it would be fine if I just let go. Probably nothing bad would happen. It's just a
the
less
mental part of this, I'm sure makes no sense to anybody but you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like I would have freaked out over the box jump and been okay with this, and you're okay with the box jump and freaking out about this. So like, hey, it's your journey.
Yeah, I think next time I'll be less scared of failing and push it a little farther. But I also, in recovery, I try and not get too excited, and I try and keep things incremental and only let myself like PR once a day still. Like, don't.
Where's that at? Here it is. You actually talk about that in this post.
Yeah. And I guess it's for this one, it's because I haven't had a muscle up PR in so long that I wanted to do it again soon. So in this case, I knew it was a PR, so I stopped. And that's because I want to PR again.
I love it. I stopped because I think it was a PR and I wanted to save some more PRs for another day.
Yeah.
Is that something you learned in this journey, or have you always been that way?
I think that's a good rule to have in general for safety. A lot of times, but I mean, it's kind of two-sided. Like, part of it is like, there's more in the tank, so like save some for later. And part of it is when you're hitting those super heavy weights or like higher spectrum like movements, that's when dangerous things can happen. So I don't know. I just feel like if you do too much, that's a good way to get hurt. And that's more why I would stop like with my Olympic lifts and back squats as I rebuild from injury, like 1 PR a day, because I want to rebuild incrementally and not skip any steps. And that's so I don't re-injure it.
So my next question is, during this time, you had limited use of your legs.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see improvements in other aspects of your fitness because you had to focus more on upper body pulling and things like that, as opposed to your leg strength?
Yeah, I do feel like I've gotten stronger in my gymnastics movements, like muscle ups, pull ups, chest to bar, toe to bar, stuff like that. So that's a win. And then, yeah, I think this one might be a surprise, but I think like my deadlift really hasn't lost anything. And I think that my form has actually improved because I've had to take a step back and rebuild slowly. And we tested it a couple of weeks ago, and I was only 20 pounds off of my all-time max. And for a deadlift, I feel like that's really close. And when we do like deadlift cycling, I keep the bar closer, I hit better positions. And I think that's because you've kind of had to like start from scratch and rebuild. So you're going to like do it the right way.
So now I'm trying to find the post you made about competing.
Oh, that's that one there.
This one.
Yeah. And I mean, I made the announcement mostly to hold myself accountable.
So you say my heart wants to compete, but my brain knows it's too soon. As an engineer, I have an innate tendency to act on logic rather than emotion. So here we are, taking 2024 off.
Mm-hmm. Because I knew that, say, by May, June, July, I might be feeling a lot better and excited or antsy to compete, especially watching everything. But I knew that was high risk and not the best choice for me long term. So I made the decision to not. And I think it's a good decision. Still, like with quarterfinals coming up, I'm like, man, I want to do that too. But I know I'm not the best version of me right now, and it's too soon.
Are you doing any of the workouts just for funsies?
Yeah, of course. I did all the open workouts. I did have to scale the double unders. Funny enough, that's been a more tricky one to get back, I think, just because it's a constant rebound. So I did single unders instead of double unders on that one. But I think I'm really close to being ready for double unders again. So yeah, I did all those, and I planned quarterfinals weekend to be at the gym with everyone, helping judge and hopping in for the workouts. Whether I do all of them or some of them, we'll see. But it's my plan. It's nice to have some data point.
Yeah. And ever since I've known you, you've always been very level about everything. And I don't know if it's the engineer in you that makes that happen. But through all ups and downs in your career, you've always been very level. And
Yeah.
what do you give whatever to that's why you are who you are?
I mean, on some level, I think it's just kind of my personality and who I am. Like, I kind of always been that way, just live in the middle. I'm never too up or too down. I just try and like stay in the middle and in control. And I to some level, I don't really have to try to be like that. Of course, sometimes life throws you curveballs, and it's hard to not get too high or too low. But I always kind of, to calm myself down, just relax, focus on things that are in your control. And that's what I've been doing, and it seems to be working pretty well. But yeah, you never know how you're going to handle something like this because it doesn't come up very much, but it's been fine. Like, I've handled it pretty well. Haven't gotten too down, so that's good.
Yeah, people tell me that all the time, that just control what you can control. It doesn't seem to sink into me very well, but
yeah, I don't know what advice I'd give for that. I mean, it's definitely a skill, so it takes practice. So just being adamant about it, and I mean, can start with little things, but we're all only human, so give yourself grace.
So I know this is a question for someone who's not a mid person, but we're going to try it. And that is, before your injury, you were as strong as they come.
Mm-hmm.
In the CrossFit field, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the injury, you've improved your gymnastics, your upper body pulling. Is there some excitement to see what the new Chelsea's going to be at the end of this journey?
Yeah, I think I will be a different athlete in a lot of ways. I'll have different strengths and weaknesses, absolutely. And it's really exciting to think about what that might look like. There's that part of me that thinks, well, all the things that kind of set me apart in the past, like the strength parts, that I have to like wonder, am I going to get back to being that strong or not? And if I don't have it, will nothing set me apart? So I mean, there's that bit of doubt, but I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I think whatever happens, happens. I think fitness journeys are very personal, and competing is very personal. And at the end of the day, I don't think anyone cares as much as like you care about your own endeavors. So I think I'll have more to be proud of because will have overcome a lot more, and it'll mean a lot more wherever I do end up. But honestly, the way things have been progressing the last couple of weeks has me like in a super motivated place. And I'm feeling a lot of promise that I'll be able to get back there.
So my question to you after that would be, does it matter if you win the snatch event by 30 pounds or by 10 pounds? If you still win it, right?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're right. So luckily, as a master's athlete, I did have some excess. So I don't even need to get back to where I was.
Right.
Last Saturday, I actually built to a heavy and I hit 155. So, and I mean, probably could have done more, but I stopped because the 1 PR a day rule and I didn't want to get ahead of myself. And kind of where I'm at right now with the Olympic lifts is as I add load, when I jump to move my feet, if it gets heavy enough, my left foot will do all the work and my right foot will kind of just leave the ground early and move to the side so I won't jump out of it. So I'm at like the same weight for my snatch and my clean and jerk right now, just because it's limited by what I can jump with off of the floor. But yeah, so things are coming along nicely.
Yeah. When I saw that back squat, I was like, the strength is going to come back. The muscles know what they're supposed to do. They're just waiting for the tendon to heal.
Yeah.
And if you improve in other areas,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be a pretty amazing athlete.
That's a good way to think about it. And I appreciate that because I'll try and think about it that way too. And I'm also right now I'm on like a calf strengthening cycle. Like it's Antone found it. So we're doing a couple days a week, like a progression of different variations of calf raises. And I can tell it's making a difference. So we'll be back.
Well, man, the time is flying by again, as always.
It always does.
So I noticed you got your L2.
Oh yeah.
Are you coaching actively now, or was this just something that you wanted to do?
So after the games, at some point I got an email where if you competed at the games, you can take a CrossFit course. Like you had a like coupon to take a CrossFit course. And I had my L1 from years ago. It had expired. So I emailed and I asked if I could take the L2. And they were like, yeah, sign up. So I did it because I had that opportunity that I didn't want to go to waste. And also every now and then at the gym, like things will be, they'll need like a fill-in coach here and there. And I felt like if I had my cert, then I could pitch in a little bit more at the gym and kind of give back to the community a little bit who has supported me through so much over the years. So, I mean, coaching is a whole nother skill. Like you could be the best athlete in the world and know nothing about coaching. Like it is a skill. You have to practice it. And it is out of my comfort zone. But taking the L2 was awesome. It was a great experience. And I built a little confidence in my coaching and I've been trying it here and there as needed. So highly recommend courses.
I was scheduled to take my L2 at Mayhem during COVID.
Yeah.
During the time that COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it got canceled and then it kept getting postponed. And then they basically said, listen, we're not postponing anymore. My L1 was going to run out. Mm-hmm. So I just took the online L1 to keep it up to date and then haven't gone back to do the L2 yet.
Yeah, when it expires, so in another, I guess only 1 or 2 years, probably, right? Isn't it good for 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, so then next time, I'd highly recommend it in person. I think they do have remote options for it, but the in-person experience was awesome. To have that hands-on practice and the instructors right there, it was great.
So I started as a judge as a volunteer. And you had to have your L1 to be able to judge at the big events.
Yeah.
So I coached. I wanted to give back to my community because I went from 400 pounds to 260 pounds, whatever. And so I got my L1, coached at the gym I was at, and then became a judge. And then I had to keep it. So that was from 2015 till now. So I'm almost 10 years in.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not judging anymore. I'm not coaching anymore. And it's hard to say, like, is it worth $1,000?
Right. That's kind of, I had let mine expire. The L1, I coached a little bit. I got it because I wanted to learn more. I was just getting into CrossFit and then I used it a little bit, but when it was going to expire, I wasn't using it anymore. I wasn't coaching anymore. I didn't have time to coach between work and training myself. So I just let it expire. I had no reason to pay another $1,000. So this was a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah. There's part of me that really wants to do it, but I'd rather put $1,000 into this company.
Absolutely.
You know, But yeah, I decided a couple years ago, I tried to judge after I started this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm too connected to the athletes now. I can't
Absolutely.
judge anymore and be unbiased.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So my last question to you, the most important one, any big ant adventures in the last few months?
Well, Emma is in jujitsu now a couple days a week on top of her gymnastics. So it's been really fun to watch her do that. I'll go watch her practice here and there and just watching her progress and get confidence and get new belts. And that's really exciting. And then Nicholas is turning 2 this weekend, and he has become so much fun the last 6 months, especially. I think he said antsy for the first time at the games, like while they were on their way to Wisconsin. And so now it's my absolute favorite word in the world when he says antsy. But he likes to drive his little battery-powered Jeep around the backyard and cause trouble with me. When he wants to do something he knows he's not supposed to, he comes and gets me. So that's a lot of fun.
I just saw a video where someone pimped out one of those battery-powered Jeeps, like new paint job, made it look like an authentic Jeep. It was really cool.
His is actually a John Deere, but he calls it a Jeep. So, but we could pimp it out for him. He's finally figuring out steering, but sometimes he'll get distracted. So you have to follow him to make sure he's not going to run into anything. Because if he doesn't understand stopping if he hits something either. He'll get there. And then my other nephew in Japan just turned 3, and I'm hoping to visit Japan this year because I haven't seen him in over a year. So I'm sure he's changed a lot. But my brother always sends me videos of him showing Auntie his muscles. So that's fun. And I'm planning to tag along my sister's family vacation in July. We're going to go to Silverwood Theme Park. And so that'll be a fun Auntie adventure too.
Very
when
cool.
I'm not competing, I can say yes to these things. Because last year I had to say no, thank you.
Yeah. Little silver lining to the cloud.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we actually have one question from the chat. I'm late, but what area of aerospace does Chelsea work in?
I'm a structural analysis engineer at Boeing. And I do damage tolerance analysis, which is crack growth analysis. And it helps define like the maintenance program for airplanes, like the inspection program. For a military aircraft, I'll say, not a commercial aircraft.
Okay. So you're not involved with the other stuff that's in the news? No,
that's not me. And I mean, obviously it impacts Boeing. It doesn't impact my day-to-day or the work I do. But definitely we're all focused on quality and speaking up right now.
Yeah. I keep telling people like, it's still safer than driving a car. So much safer. So, and Chelsea froze. We might have went to a topic I shouldn't have gone to. With that, we'll let Chelsea go because she has really frozen. So with that, thank you everybody in the chat for being here. Thank you. Oh, there she is. She's back.
I came back. Yeah, it was like spinning for a minute.
Yeah, I all I said was I've been telling everybody it's still way safer than driving a car.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I will fly.
Well, I think everything that has been happening lately, Boeing's almost like a buzzword right now. So if there's anything to do with Boeing, Boeing's going to be in the headline, even if it's not like a Boeing thing. But anyway.
Yeah. Hey, I get it. We make mistakes at the state, and it makes the papers too. So
yeah,
data breaches, all that kind of stuff I get involved in and sucked into. And we do our best. But with that, thank you so much for being here. As awesome as always. And can't wait to continue to follow your rehab.
Appreciate it.
And do we have Do we have guarantees that next season, 2025, is Chelsea season?
That's my plan. Yeah, and I'll let you know if anything changes, but that's eyes on the prize. We're working to peak it next season.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, have a great rest of your day. Thank you to
Thank
everybody in the chat. We'll see everybody next time on Clydesdale Media Podcast. Bye, guys.